to be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who will bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprized love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, or the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin? Who would these fardels bear, to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment with disregard their currents turn awry and lose the name of action.
Alex Jennings plays the title role in the Royal Shakespeare Company's current production of Hamlet. While he has appeared extensively on television, in films, and on radio, Mr. Jennings is best known as one of Great Britain's leading stage actors. He last appeared in the United States, in New York, and at the Kennedy Center, doubling in the roles of Theseus and Oberon in the Royal Shakespeare Company's production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
I want to ask you what you think of an idea that I've come across that says that Hamlet, the play and the character, are the Mona Lisa of drama.
He smiled enigmatically. Well, before I played the part, I was very sniffy about those kind of comparisons and putting Hamlet on a pedestal beyond other parts. And one has heard it described as the pinnacle of any actor's career and a testing point for any actor, and no actor is a real actor unless he's played Hamlet, all of which is nonsense. But when I was asked to play it, I was surprised and excited and frightened, because it is the most famous part in all drama, in the most famous play. But I now understand, having played it, why it has acquired the reputation that it has over the last 400 and however many years it is. It's an extraordinary thing to have lived with, this particular part, more than anything else I've ever done. It opens your mind, really, and your heart, because the the ideas that Shakespeare talks about, and the words he gives you to say and the words he gives other people to say, are universal. It's not just about a prince in Denmark in 13 or whenever it was that he intended it to be set. It means something to everybody, and it is very much a sort of an everyman part. And there are as many Hamlets as there are actors who are lucky enough to have the chance to play him.
What did you go through? What process did you as an actor go through to find your way to understanding Hamlet as you present him to us?
Well, when you go into rehearsals, I knew before we started the rehearsals for this particular production that we were going to be quite radical with the text, that quite a lot of very famous and favourite bits were going to be cut, that it was going to be a modern dress, that there were going to be guns and not swords, although there are swords as well, and that there was going to be a film that frames the production, which shows Hamlet as a young boy playing in the snow with his parents. Preparation is difficult to say. You just have to be as open as you can to those words and let them work on your imagination and your feelings. And they are so extraordinary that you also respond in different ways on different days.
You mean even now?
Yes, absolutely. And I've been playing it for over a year. It changes. Now that's also a tribute to just the rehearsal process we went through and the security that we all feel, that we all have in this particular production. We feel able to invent and to change things.
Some people refer to Hamlet as the melancholy Dane. Is that your point of view?
No, it isn't. I think he's... well, having said that, I think perhaps what we understand now as melancholy is not perhaps what Shakespeare intended. And I got very worried during performances at one point when I said to Matthew, I don't think I'm being melancholy enough. And my view of melancholy was sort of Rodin's thinker in a floppy shirt and somebody thinking and brooding and being desperately sad and not being able to cope with that. Actually, the roots of the word are in causeless anger. But that's actually what the roots of the word mean, which I didn't know. So that made me, I felt all right then, because I'm actually quite an angry Hamlet and quite an active one. And I think he's constantly responding to the situation that he's in. He's always, his mind is startlingly open to anything that anybody throws at him, and he's trying to make sense of this appalling task that the ghost of his father, whatever that means, has given him. And he's constantly questioning that as well, right up until the end of the play, I think. Even though he gets proof, as he sees it, of Claudius's guilt, there's a constant battle for Hamlet trying to make sense of this thing that this spectre has told him to do, to avenge his death, and whether or not that is the right course anyway for him to go on. I mean, there's a huge moral dilemma of what is revenge, what does revenge mean.
Is it principally because of those ideas that your Hamlet has trouble doing something about what he thinks he should do?
Yeah, because he doesn't know whether it's the right course. It's not to do with, it's not the tragedy of a man who couldn't make up his mind, which is what some people have called it. I don't believe. There are always very good reasons why he doesn't act on these instructions, it seems to me.
Mm-hmm. With regard to language, because language is one of the things that so many people who are new to Shakespeare stumble over, has that always come easily to you?
No, nor does it still. You know, it's hard work to get your head round the complexity of some of the thoughts, but then again, the simplicity of it is mind-boggling. I mean, I've worked a lot on the sonnets as well, and they're not, you know, they are not archaic pieces of literature, and it's so important not to think of them as that. The reason we still read them and the reason they still affect us, and I've seen it affecting people of all ages, these plays, and I've done quite a lot, and as I say, worked on the sonnets as well, is that they're not just plays about King Richard III or King Lear or the Prince of Denmark. Those things in themselves aren't very interesting, but what he addresses in his writing is something that can touch, you know, whoever we are in 1998, 1999, on and on and on.
For people who, regardless of their age, for people who are coming to Shakespeare for the first time, do you have a particular word of advice?
To try not to be frightened by things that you're told to look for in them, whether it be metaphors, similes, repetitions of words, but to try and respond to it like you would a piece of music, you know, like, you know, whether it be Frank Sinatra or Mozart or the Verve. It's hard because a lot of the words are now out of use, but I think to be open-minded about it and not to think that it's not for you, if you can kind of get beyond that. I mean, it's hard to be sort of particularly practical about it, because in my experience, I saw my first Shakespeare production when I was 16, a long time ago, in America, was my first experience, at Stratford, Connecticut. And in my sort of early, and still even now, it takes me a while when I'm watching a Shakespeare play for my ear to adjust to what's happening.
If you could have your idea of the perfect audience, what would that audience be?
I don't know what they'd be. The most thrilling experience I've ever had was in New York, playing we were playing in a very big theatre, over 2,000 seats, and it was full of New York school kids, and that was a fairly terrifying prospect.
That was for Hamlet?
It was Hamlet, yeah. And it was one of the most exciting performance I've ever been involved in. It was like being on a roller coaster, and they were responding to us and we were responding to them, and they were absolutely into the story, and their response was raw and visceral, and they really got it. You know, it wasn't a piece of 450-year-old stuff written on a parchment in funny writing, and that was thrilling. They were absolutely getting it, and they may not have understood every word, but they got the situation and they got the music of the play.
When people go out of the theater after the performance, what is it that you would like them to carry away in their thought about Hamlet? Not about you, but about Hamlet.
That there was somebody who was sort of fighting all the time, fighting himself and fighting everybody else and fighting the situation he was in and questioning all the time everything that was happening to him, and not going down a particular path like some of the other characters in the play do, without questioning why they're doing it. He's always in his head has got an opposing view about a choice he's making or the way he's responding to a particular person.
And what would you like them to think about you? Can I say that? Can I say
I wasn't too old.
That you were marvelous.
Indeed.
Yes. And you are.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming today and sharing some ideas about this. May you wave for a very long time.
Thank you very much.
The Prince William Network and the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts are pleased to bring you the programs in the Performing Arts series. You may want to stay in touch with the Kennedy Center's website, which appears on your screen. Until next time, make your lives richer by making the arts a part of your life every day.